We're going to call to order the City of Wilmington Board of Adjustments meeting for Thursday, February 19th, 2026. It is 1:05. Before we get started, I'm going to read the Board of Adjustment introduction. Hearings before the Board of Adjustments are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions for the board are based on the record of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a concurrent vote of 4/5 of the members of the board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a simple majority. Evidence submitted to the board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals for the board's decision are to Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of filing of the board's order in the Planning Division. Hearing before the board is conducted in accordance with rules of procedure. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witness. The chairperson recognizes those who want to testify or their attorneys for a presentation of evidence during the hearing. To ensure that all testimony is properly recorded, please come forward to address the board. You state your name, address, and speak clearly. Thank you. The next thing we need to do is swear in everyone that's going to be speaking today.
If staff, applicants, members of the public who will speak today or wish to speak, you may consider speaking. If you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next item is going to be the approval of the minutes from our January 15th, 2026 meeting. You have those for review. Is there a motion or a discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the Tuesday, January 15th Board of Adjustment meeting as presented.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those pass. Our next item is old business. It involves 4125 Echo Farms Boulevard, a variance to City Code Section 18-205 for the development of a restaurant with a drive-through facility. And Zach Smith will be presenting this for the city.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. This is evidentiary hearing number 1. The subject property is located at 4125 Echo Farms Boulevard. The proposed new construction consists of a restaurant with a drive-through facility. The site is currently zoned office and institutional and is currently vacant. Restaurant uses are permitted by right in the O&I district. Drive-through facilities are also permitted as an accessory structure by right with conditions in the O&I district. These are photos of the existing conditions of the subject property. The applicant is requesting a variance to City Code Section 18-205 for the construction of a restaurant with a drive-through facility. Pursuant to Code Section 18-205, a drive-through facility shall not be located between a building and a right-of-way, nor shall it be on the same side of the building as the primary entrance. The applicant has requested a variance from this code provision to allow the drive-through between the building and the street along Echo Farms Boulevard, where the primary entrance is located. The red arrow on the site plan before you indicates the drive-through facility, which is clearly between the building, proposed building, and the right-of-way, which is Echo Farms Boulevard. Staff has received an updated application since the previous continuance. Before you are both the original site plan submitted with the initial request and the revised site plan currently being proposed. At this time, there are no known plans for development or construction on the southern portion of the property. This concludes staff's presentation. I'd like my presentation and case summary to be entered in the record. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here as well.
All right, are there any questions for Zach? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Could you just review for everybody the conditions that you mentioned may be applicable for a drive-through? You said they may be of right, but also under certain conditions. What those might be? Thank you.
In this case, the only condition that the applicant cannot, or is requesting a variance for, is the location of the drive-through. I believe the other conditions deal with canopies and things of that nature, but this request is strictly for the location.
Very good. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Is the applicant present and would like to do a presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Rodriguez. I'm with Kimley Horn, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
And just for the record, I need to state your full address.
826 Montford Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, thank you, sir.
As Zach mentioned, here's the location of the project site, kind of just get a zoomed out version of where the site is. Oh, apologies. Apologies there. So the project site can be seen in the middle of the screen on the corner of Echo Farms Boulevard and Carolina Beach Road, kind of adjacent to where there's a proposed future gas station site, as well as the nearby Codington Elementary School. Here is the most current site plan. As Zach mentioned, we've gone through 2 or 3 revisions with this site plan, kind of to help reduce the density and better meet the use standards for gas stations, as well as the additional use standards for O&I, including keeping the order menus and points of interaction at least 200 feet from all the residential developments to the plan north and south, as well as just getting rid of the user on pad C as well to mitigate any additional variances needed at this time. And currently there's no planned uses for pad A or pad C. Moving on. So with that, we do request the 1 variance for the drive-through location relative to the building and right-of-way, section 18205A2. This is the requirement that a drive-through facility may not be located between the building and the right-of-way. One thing I did want to note is the drive-through facility will not be located on the same side as the primary entrance. It is simply just trying to be in between the right-of-way and the building. So essentially just trying to meet that first requirement of that standard. So with that, we have the drive-through for the drive-through facility will be placed between the building and the right-of-way in the most practical configuration possible, while keeping parking and the pedestrian circulation internal to the site. Given the site's location and size with double frontage or having 3 sides of right-of-way, this is particular to this site and is causing a hardship with this requirement. With that, that is the end of my presentation. And I guess here is also a little bit of more information showing the building face, and the existing right-of-way on Echo Farms Boulevard, as well as the area that we are requesting a variance for. You can see the order menu, as well as some of the cars stacking there in green. I'll open it for questions.
All right, any questions? All right, we may have some after the
Okay.
the
Thank you.
evidentiary. Thank you. Does the city have anything else to add at this time? Zach? No? All right. I'm going to go ahead and open up the evidentiary hearing. This portion is for those that have material to provide that is competent, material, substantive, and evidential to and relative to this matter. People will come forward, state your name and address as necessary. Is there anyone that'd like to present any information at this time? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Kleichis. I live at 4148 Appleton Way in Echo Farms. I'm the president of the Echo Farms Resident Association, and with regards to the first variance request and the revisions after that, as a board, we want to state on record that we object to the variance request, and I have our objection letter written by our lawyer who's kind of helped us out to be submitted. If it needs to be read, I can do that.
I will have you submit the letter to Casey and have it reviewed by us for
Okay.
submittal.
And I have other copies if you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
want one.
Okay.
Basically, I have more images of what we've already seen. The variance request of where our Echo Farms sign is in relation to the building. And then also we break out the 4 different areas into how we feel that none of them are being met. The 4 areas that all need to be met in order to receive a variance request approval. And let's see, do you want me to go through those?
Sure,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, I have several copies. Well, you're.
Do you have enough that we can?
Oh, yeah.
Let's give them to Casey, and she can give all of those to us, and we'll have you read it for the record. Oh, yes.
That's all right. I apologize. I'm Amy Schaefer. I'm an attorney here in Wilmington. For the record, I need to object to this letter if it is making any kind of legal argument. I don't know what attorney drafted this, and they're not here. That's just for the record.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
What we'll do is let us, Mr. Satterfield, appropriate to have us review the letter first before it's read, or should we proceed forward with having read to the record? Okay, okay. Thank you.
I can also state that our lawyer here is overseas deployed and is unable to attend this meeting, but was available the prior to.
Okay, we'll have you go ahead and read it in, and we'll also note the objection too. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry. Okay, so I'm going to start at number 2, failure to demonstrate unnecessary physical hardship. So we feel the applicant has failed to demonstrate unnecessary physical hardship that would result in strict application of the city code. The statute explicitly requires that hardship be physical in nature and not financial or based on economic considerations. So no hardship has been demonstrated. The property at 4125 Echo Farms Boulevard does not exhibit unique physical characteristics that would prevent reasonable use under existing zoning regulations. The lot has standard commercial configuration with adequate street frontage, no unusual topographical features, no environmental constraints unique to this parcel, adequate access to public infrastructure, and similar dimensions and characteristics to other commercial parcels. B, the economic hardship is insufficient. Any claimed hardships appears to stem from, and again, this is from how it appears, the applicant's desire to maximize profit through drive-through restaurant model, the applicant's business plan preferences, economic considerations related to franchise or operational preferences, and the cost of compliance with existing regulations. North Carolina courts have consistently held that financial hardship alone cannot justify a variance, and the applicant's inability to achieve maximum economic return does not constitute the requisite unnecessary hardship, and the applicant has failed to state any valid hardships that is not related to that specifically. Reasonable use exists under current regulations. The statute explicitly provides that it is not necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of the variance, no reasonable use can be made of the property. However, the applicant must still show substantial hardship. Here, the property can accommodate retail uses permitted in the applicable zoning district, restaurant development without drive-through facilities, office uses, and numerous other conforming commercial uses. The ability to develop the property for profitable commercial uses without a variance demonstrates the absence of unnecessary hardship. So number 3, hardship is not peculiar to the property. The hardship, if any, is not peculiar to 4125 Echo Farms Boulevard. And it expressly states hardships resulting from personal circumstance as well as hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood or the general public may not be basis for granting variance. Similar characteristics surrounding properties, 3A. The subject property shares common characteristics with numerous other parcels along Echo Farms Boulevard and throughout the Echo Farms area, including zoning classification, lot dimensions and configuration, access to public streets, and proximity to residential neighborhoods and infrastructure availability. B, the applicant seeks exception from generally applicable standards. The variances sought are general regulations that apply uniformly across similarly zoned properties. The applicant has not identified any physical condition peculiar to this specific parcel that distinguishes it from other commercial properties subject to the same standards. Granting this variance would effectively permit what is forbidden to all similarly situated property owners, a privilege, not a variance. Instead, the applicant focuses on its desire to have, and this was before the revisions, but now one drive-through lane on a lot not largely enough to safely develop 2 lanes of drive-through. Again, picking profit over safety and common sense over common sense development. Personal circumstances cannot support a variance. To the extent of any claimed hardships relates to franchise requirements or business model constraints, corporate operational standards, economic projections or profit expectations, market demand for drive-through facilities. These constitute personal circumstances explicitly prohibited as grounds of a variance under the statute. Inconsistency with public safety and zoning purpose. The requested variance is fundamentally inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the Land Development Code and would compromise public safety. And the code that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. So A, severe traffic safety concerns. The proposed restaurant with drive-through facilities would generate substantial vehicle trips. Existing infrastructure cannot safely accommodate. This would be bringing in cars from Carolina Beach Road into the neighborhood right across from a public pool. Current traffic conditions, Echo Farms Boulevard currently experiences already heavy residential traffic from the established Echo Farms community. Peak hour congestion during morning and evening commutes, school bus routes serving neighborhood children, pedestrian and bicycle traffic from residents, and limited capacity during peak periods. There's a roundabout right near where this parcel is, and in the morning, cars wait around the roundabout just to wait for that light to go. The area already suffers from traffic congestion, allowing these variances without a legal basis would only exacerbate these conditions. Drive-through traffic generation. So a restaurant with drive-through facilities generates significantly higher trip counts than traditional restaurants. Industry standards indicate 200 to 400 plus vehicle trips per day for quick service restaurants. Drive-through operations create constant circulation and queuing. Peak hour traffic coincides with residential commute times. Stacking of drive-through vehicles creates spillover onto public streets. Inadequate infrastructure. The existing road network was designed and constructed to serve the residential character of Echo Farms, not intensive commercial development that will overburden the lot and the road with drive-through facilities. The addition of this high traffic use would overwhelm existing turning lanes and traffic signals, create dangerous conflicts between the drive-through queuing and through traffic, impede emergency vehicles, create hazardous conditions for pedestrians and cyclists, result in traffic backing up onto Echo Farms Boulevard. Public safety threats. So approval of this variance would directly threaten public safety through increased accident risk at an already congested intersection, pedestrian safety hazards for residents walking to the park and pool facilities, compromised emergency response times due to increased congestion, school bus safety concerns with increased commercial traffic, bicycle safety risks on routes used by neighborhood residents. The destruction of neighborhood character. Echo Farms is an established, predominantly single-family residential community. The character and quality of life that attracts residents to this neighborhood depend on low-density residential development, limited commercial intrusion, preservation of the residential streetscape, and protection from incompatible commercial uses. The city code sections were enacted to specifically to protect residential neighborhoods from adverse impacts of intensive commercial uses. A drive-through restaurant represents exactly the type of intensive, high-traffic commercial use that these regulations were designed to prevent. 1, noise pollution. Drive-through operations generate vehicle idling noise throughout operating hours, drive-through speaker announcements, accelerating and decelerating vehicles, extended hours of operation creating disturbance during early morning and late evening, visual impact. The proposed development would induce commercial signage inconsistent with residential character, high-intensity lighting for 24-hour or extended-hour operations, drive-through infrastructure and queuing areas, architectural elements incompatible with residential neighborhood. The property value impact. So granting this variance would set precedent for similar intensive commercial developments, undermine the residential character that supports property values, create uncertainty about future land use in the neighborhood, and expose all Echo Farms residents to diminished property values. Violation of comprehensive planning. So the Land Development Code implements the city's comprehensive plan, which designates land use to promote orderly development and protect established neighborhoods. The variance request conflicts with planned separation of intensive commercial uses from residential areas, transportation planning assuming residential trip generation, community character preservation objectives, public health and safety goals. Substantial injustice to neighborhood residents. So substantial injustice requires consideration of impacts on the broader community, not merely the applicant's interest. Granting this variance would impose severe traffic burdens on the residents who chose Echo Farms for its residential character, force residents to endure noise, light, and activity incompatible with residential living, diminish property values and quality of life for hundreds of families, violate the reasonable expectations of homeowners who purchased in reliance on existing zone protections, benefit a single commercial developer at the expense of an entire residential community. The balance of equities weighs heavily against the applicant. The applicant seeks approval for an intensive commercial use generating enormous traffic specifically prohibited by the regulations at issue. Denying the variance merely maintains the status quo and enforces the protections that existing residents reasonably expected. Granting the variance would inflict substantial irreversible harm to the neighborhood. 5, self-created hardship. To the extent any hardship exists, it was created by the applicant's own actions. The hardships did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. So A, knowledge restrictions. If the applicant purchased or leased this property for restaurant development with drive-through facilities, the applicant did so with actual or constructive knowledge of applicable zoning regulations, city code sections listed, prohibition of drive-through facilities without variance, and the residential character of the surrounding area. While the statute provides that the act of purchasing property with the knowledge that circumstances exist that may justify granting of a variance is not a self-created hardship. This safe harbor does not apply here because, as demonstrated above, no circumstances peculiar to the property justify this. Alternative conforming uses available. The applicant chose to pursue a non-conforming development requiring multiple variances rather than developing the property in accordance with applicable regulations. This constitutes a self-created hardship. The applicant could have designed a restaurant without drive-through facilities, selected an alternative site zoned for the intended use, pursued conforming commercial development. And 6, precedential harm. If the board grants this variance based on the business model, preferences, and economic considerations, it would signal that any commercial developer can obtain variances through economic arguments, undermine the Land Development Code's protective standards, invite similar variance requests throughout Echo Farms and other residential areas, transform quasi-judicial variance proceedings into legislative rezoning by variance. 8, conclusion. The applicant has failed to satisfy any of the 4 mandatory statutory criteria. No unnecessary fiscal hardship has been demonstrated. No hardship peculiar to the property exists. Any claimed hardship is self-created, and the variance is inconsistent with public safety and the purpose of the code. Because the applicant must prove all 4 elements, failure to prove even one requires a denial. Here, the applicant has failed to prove any element. Moreover, granting these variances would compromise public safety through overwhelming traffic impacts, destroy the residential character of Echo Farms, set a dangerous precedent for future variance abuse, inflict substantial injustice on neighborhood residents, violate the comprehensive planning framework, and undermine the integrity of Wilmington's zoning system. The Board of Adjustments lacks authority to grant variances that fail to satisfy statutory criteria. The regulations at issue, listed, serve critical public purposes, protecting residential neighborhoods from incompatible commercial intrusion and ensuring public safety. These regulations must be enforced. The Echo Farms Resident Association is not against responsible development. We're for it. We welcome growth in our neighborhood. We do not welcome commercial developments that seek to burden our streets, cause safety and noise concerns, and that are attempting to maximize profits at the expense of our residents and the safety of those using the commercial development. We respectfully urge the board to deny this variance request and uphold the zoning protections that safeguard the Echo Farms community. Respectfully submitted, the Echo Farms Residents Association.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Do you have any questions?
During this part, we will come
Okay.
back if we have some. But we have your record, it's been put in for the record, and I have to remind everyone, we have to go solely on the matters that go for the finding of fact and the factual items. Opinion or judgment of what works in an environment or a neighborhood is not something we can consider. We're solely a variance
Thank
case.
you.
But thank you. All right, is anyone, next person?
Hi, Blair Dean. I live at 4123 Appleton Way in Echo Farms. I am actually the vice president of the Echo Farms Residents Association, and I am speaking today in our board written, because again, our representation is overseas, our board written submission to the variance change that they have submitted. So what Rachel just read was specific to their original submission, and this is specific to this submission for this one variance.
All right, and do you have a copy?
I do.
Okay, if you can give those to Casey for review. You can go ahead.
Okay,
They'll
thanks.
pass them out for us.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so the Echo Farms Residents Association is basically issuing a statement in response to the developer's revision to their variance request. The original variance requests are public record as they were submitted at those, or were going to be brought forward at the others. While the revised submission presents itself as a narrow or clarified request before the Board of Adjustments, EFRA, which you will hear me, Echo Farms Residents Association, believes the current variance application tells only part of a story. The revision appears structured to secure incremental approval from the Board of Adjustments while leaving open and clear possibility of additional future variances or code deviations necessary to fully realize the developer's intended build-out. EFRA is concerned that the current variance request does not reflect the full scope of development pressures anticipated for both Pad B and the possible future Pad A or C. Site plan elements already indicate encroachments beyond established setbacks and design standards, which they are not requesting as part of the variance today. The variance, which applies to Pad B, the variance represents only a portion of the total deviation from existing code required to implement the overall commercial intensity envisioned for the property. Granting this variance would not resolve the broader incapability between the proposed use and the existing zoning standards. Instead, it risks establishing a precedent that future variance can be layered upon the initial approval. And on the next one, you can see an overlay just to show you where the different pads are from the initial request. And basically, you can see that they just removed one of the restaurants. So in our concern is that they will just come back and now ask for the other one that requires even more variances. So this shows a pattern of anticipated code breaches for this development. EFRA believes the revision attempts to isolate one element of noncompliance for immediate approval while deferring additional foreseeable breaches of code for future requests. It prevents the Board of Adjustments and public from evaluating the cumulative impact of the full development. It obscures the true scale of commercial intensity proposed for this location, and it undermines the intent of zoning protections designed to safeguard residential neighborhoods. The Echo Farms community deserves transparency regarding the ultimate build-out and all anticipated deviations from city code, not incremental approvals that gradually erode compliance standards. No demonstrated hardship. As previously stated, the lot is sufficiently large under current zoning to accommodate numerous permitted O&I uses without requiring extraordinary relief. The variance request does not stem from a hardship imposed by the property itself, but rather from a development concept that seeks to maximize commercial yield beyond what the code comfortably allows. As you can see in the image shown there, the buildable area for the entire parcel is in red. Zoning ordinances are not obstacles to be incrementally negotiated away. They are safeguards adopted to balance growth with community protection. EFRA remains opposed, and we are asking the Board of Adjustments to call for full transparency and not request individual variances if possible. And then I do have one other thing, and this is my personal.
Is it relevant and new? It's new material? Okay, I'll have you give it to them. You can go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So the first one we kind of covered in the last letter. So it is just showing the overall parcel and the amount of space that is buildable on this lot. So this variance request is in basically showing no hardship because they could just rearrange how they build upon this lot. Overdevelopment, the request is for about 50% of what they're requesting. So they're showing just the drive-through lane. However, the drive-through traffic on a site this small would most likely encroach all the way around. So we do not feel as though they are representing the overall drive-through that would be required for this variance. And as such, that more than 50% of where cars will be actually queued will be on the other side of what would need to be required for this variance. Precedents for continued violations. As you can see, there is intensity coming that they are planning for that requires a lot of other violations. I do know that you are only looking at this specific request for variance today, but just want to make sure that is stated, and you can see there some of those. The front setback violation that they are not showing you today on this current build out on pad B. You can see in the next portion there, they are not requesting a variance on either front setback on either side. So they're not telling the full story of this specific build. And as you continue, there is an outdoor seating element that they are planning to also have that would be inside of the 200-foot setback from residential property, which is also part of the code, which they would have to then come back and ask for a variance on if they decide to add that as well. Furthermore, we are very concerned about the stormwater not represented at all in any plans we have been able to see in this project. This site is about 650 feet from the natural intake for Bernard's Creek, and it is about 400 feet from one of the reconstructed entrances to Bernard's Creek. This is double drive-through traffic. Of course, they're only showing one right now, so sorry, single drive-through traffic they are proposing that is uphill from both of these at 650 feet and 400 feet, and there is no stormwater shown on site. We are extremely concerned about that and wanted to make sure we brought that to your attention as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I will remind that, again, we are solely quasi-judicial in nature. We are not legislative. So you have to take everything in consideration, that we only have the ability of making certain authority to only make certain actions. But thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Leslie Lucas. I live at 4321 Peeble Drive in Echo Farms. I have copies of my personal letter. I do want to state that eliminating one restaurant does not legitimize the project. Our arguments address more than just a second restaurant. So I will read this to you. Dear members of the Board of Adjustment for the City of Wilmington, I am a resident of Echo Farms, writing to provide objective, site-specific, and legally relevant information regarding the proposed fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities on Carolina Beach Road. My intent is not to oppose development generally, but to identify safety, traffic, and neighborhood compatibility concerns that the board must consider under the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. Number one, neighborhood safety and traffic impacts. Locating high-volume drive-through restaurant immediately adjacent to residential streets would introduce commercial traffic into an area designed for low-intensity neighborhood use. Residents, including children, walk and bicycle on streets that lack continuous sidewalks or already experience seasonal congestion due to neighborhood amenities such as the community pool. The foreseeable result is increased vehicle conflicts, noise, and pedestrian risk. These impacts are inconsistent with the adopted goals for public safety, livability, and compatible land use. Approval of any variance would permanently alter the character and safety of our neighborhood, responsibly justifying denial of this project. And I'm including the specific land development codes and comprehensive plan policies that relate to that. Number two, cumulative development context. The surrounding corridor has already absorbed substantial high-intensity development. Echo Farms' original design included houses surrounding the golf course. Those houses now surround houses on the former golf course. Additional traffic from drive-through fast food restaurant would compound these cumulative impacts on infrastructure not designed for sustained commercial volumes. The applicant seeks 4 variances, and I won't repeat all 4. The record does not support the required findings for even 1 variance. The circumstances arise from site design choices rather than unique physical hardship. Approval would grant a special privilege not available to similarly situated properties, and the requested deviations would diminish safety, compatibility, and effective traffic management, core purposes of the LDC. The legal standard, number 4. North Carolina law requires that decisions be based on competent, material, and substantial evidence tied to the land use requirements. The documented traffic conflicts, pedestrian risk, neighborhood impacts, and absence of qualifying hardship provide such evidence. This is not simply a quality of life concern. This issue directly impacts the legal standards required for granting variances. For the protection of the neighborhood safety, the integrity of adopted planning policies, I respectfully request denial of the proposed development and variances. Approval would impose foreseeable adverse impacts on a residential area not designed to accommodate high-volume commercial drive-through activity. I would like to specifically talk about the infrastructure and traffic mismatch. I was disappointed not to see the roundabout and the access points, and this is what will drive a lot of the safety issues. The roundabout is not designed for residents and the consistent flow of customers from a fast food drive-through restaurant. The residential roundabout originally had 2 access points, Echo Farms Boulevard and Belfairs Drive, one on each side of the neighborhood, on the 2 different neighborhoods. Midvale Drive, 3rd access point added after the construction of Hawthorne Apartments, is now sandwiched in between these original access points. So we've got 3 access points to the roundabout, about 50 feet apart from each other, already causing the residential cars to compete. The roundabout and traffic controls in this area were engineered for residential circulation, not repeated high-volume restaurant traffic throughout the day and evening. The predictable, foreseeable outcomes of this configuration include increased turning conflicts at multiple closely spaced access points, spill back into the roundabout serving neighborhood.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yes.
We have to pull it back
Okay.
into our. I've been
Okay.
sort of lenient and let it go
Understand.
out, but we need to bring
Okay.
it into.
Okay, the standard, I'll finish.
Yeah, if you can tie it back to the
Yes.
4 findings of fact, yes,
The standard
ma'am.
for the variance approval requires protection of public safety and welfare. Routing drive-through traffic into residential circulation system designed for neighborhood use raises clear and foreseeable safety conflicts. You'll be able to read about the road that will absorb most of the traffic. I'll leave that for you all to read. One last paragraph. Placing fast food restaurants for all intents and purposes in our neighborhood would transform a quiet residential area into a congested and unsafe commercial corridor. Customers would be forced to drive through streets where children and adults walk and bike daily, many lacking sidewalks or with crowded sidewalks, particularly in the summer when residents use the public pool. Traffic, noise, pedestrian risk would increase dramatically, directly threatening the quality of life. These conflicts with the character and intended use of the neighborhood, and these conflicts hinder the character and intended use of the neighborhood and undermine city planning for safety, livability, and responsible land use. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that has anything relative that has not already been stated?
I'll not go all through again. My name is Paul Hibbert. I live at 4027 Appleton Way. I've heard everything that's just been said, so I don't plan to repeat it. I'll just try and reinforce something that I didn't think was brought to your attention as much as I would have done if I was given the presentation. The 200-foot buffer is to protect the adjacent residences from the noise and disruption at the fast food facility. We originally had 2 fast food facilities proposed, and when the developer became aware that there was objections within the neighborhood, they revised it and removed one of the fast food properties. But they did not remove the one that is within the zone, which is why they're here for a variance. They removed the second one. So I want to say that I support everything that's been said to you already. One other thing I would like to say is I'm a licensed general contractor. I'm semi-retired. I currently own a small business, but in my past life, I used to build major heavy highway projects. And I'm talking about widening I-85 in Charlotte, Durham, Greensboro, working on I-285 in Atlanta. That gives me a good idea of how traffic runs. And I did not like the idea of this cut-through road between Carolina Beach Road and the neighborhood.
Unfortunately, sir, I
I
do
understand,
appreciate that.
I understand.
It's outside our purview.
So I will finish. I made my point.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. Taylor Anderson, I live at 3603 Webster Way. I'm going to be brief. I'm not going to rehash all of the points that have been made already. I do have a procedural question regarding the applicant's legal standing. It appears that the property owner, Internet Optics LLC, is a registered LLC out of Delaware, number 6008414, but does not appear, at least as of today, to be registered within the state of North Carolina Secretary of State. It is not illegal for them to own property here. I guess my question is whether or not they would be considered to be transacting business, which would require them to be registered within the state of North Carolina. So I'm unclear as to whether or not the applicant has the proper authority to engage this council or the development of the property to pursue the request before the board today. And I'm asking the board or the staff to confirm that they are valid standing to bring the application today.
All right, this is an easy part for me because I get to defer this question. So, Mr. Satterfield?
I do not think, within your purview to decide. That is a legal question. They're standing. They have submitted the necessary appointment forms with their application. I don't see an issue.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. That said, I agree with all the points. I don't believe that there is unnecessary or undue hardship.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to? Yes, sir.
Hi there. My name is William Fitzpatrick. I live at 1018 Grappo Cove, which is on the other side of Carolina Beach Road. I just want to maintain my strong opposition to this because of the increase in traffic to the George Anderson side of this project, which I don't think has been addressed. There is an intersection with 4 roads, and
Sir, I have to have you focus it solely on the actual variance itself.
Okay.
We have no purview on any process that you go through has to go through planning, go through TRC. It's so outside our purview. We're solely here for the variance.
Okay. Well, then I'll just point out that according to the Port City Daily of January 14, this project is anticipated to have, as a result, 1,300 additional traffic stops per day. And I feel that the road infrastructure, the traffic infrastructure just will not handle that.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone that has any additional information related to the variance? Ms. Schaefer, did you want to? And Ms. Schaefer, for the record, are you representing the applicant?
I am representing the applicant, thank you. And because it's a technical variance, we thought it would be good to have the engineer, but because there were some legal questions, I'd just like to come up, and Alex is here for that. If we can pull back up our site plan from our presentation, I think that would be really helpful. So, thank you. Yep, perfect. I appreciate that. Okay. So, a few things that were touched upon. One is the use, and I thank the board for understanding that we're not here to decide if a drive-through use is permitted. A drive-through use is permitted in O&I. In addition, some other uses permitted in O&I, and I'm only bringing this up because some of the residents mentioned it. A chemical dependency treatment facility, a domestic violence shelter, a hospital, just a few, let's see, drop-in childcare, a crematory, a funeral home, and let's just leave it at funeral home, and a lot of intensive traffic generators are already permitted in O&I. It's also not unusual that site plans are brought forward and then tweaked with the city as things go forward. So again, there were multiple variances requested. After meeting with staff, after looking with the development team, the engineers were able to fix the setbacks. They were able to fix all of the other issues other than this one placement of the drive-through facility. I'd also like to read the definition of drive-through facility just so that the board has it. I haven't seen it on any of the information so far. A drive-through facility is all features associated with access to services by persons from automobiles, including order boxes, windows, and stations, payment windows, pickup windows, drive-in service stalls, and all similar points of interaction. The engineers have attempted multiple locations for this drive-through. If anything were to be moved plan north, then you're encroaching on that residential 200-foot setback, which of course we do not want to do. That is a major protection for that residential area to the north. Site plan across Echo Farms Boulevard, that is the Echo Farms Recreational Center that is also zoned O&I. Plan south is on the other side of Echo Farms Boulevard, so I don't know if we've got a good picture. Okay, here. So where Echo Farms Boulevard comes in off of Carolina Beach Road, south of that is also zoned residential. So you can see we've done the 200-foot setback from there as well. In addition, across Carolina Beach Road. So this is the optimum location for the drive-through. There's nothing economically required about this. It is simply the topography of the property. This property has 3 street frontages, and respectfully, that is unique to this property, especially with the roundabout. If you look at that, it could almost be 4 street frontages. There is just no feasible location on this site to put that small portion of the drive-through that is not between the building and the right-of-way. Let me see some of the other questions. I know it's not within this board's purview, but because it has been brought up, and as Mr. Hovis said, I did want to state things like traffic, stormwater, all of that has to be handled through the proper processes. So if anything gets developed here, stormwater will be addressed. In fact, I know that we've already had multiple conversations with Mr. Gordon about where the stormwater comes through Carolina Beach Road, the outfalls, something needed cleared, it was clogged up. I think that's been done. So the engineers have already started looking at stormwater, because even if this doesn't get built, this property is going to be developed in some way, shape, or form. And so all of that has to be taken into consideration. So the stormwater will go through all of the necessary permitting processes outside of this board. Somebody mentioned outdoor seating, and it's my understanding that the outdoor seating is not 200 feet based on buffering and other requirements. So it's my understanding we meet all of those requirements as well for separation from residential. Oh, and of course, the traffic, that was a big issue. Traffic impact analysis is not required, but, you know, any kind of driveway permit will require a full review of the project to determine where the entrance and exits are, and that is solely going to be up to the DOT for Carolina Beach Road, and Echo Farms Boulevard, I believe, is a city street. And that would have to be determined through traffic engineering. Again, no matter what gets built on this property. I think we've addressed, but if there are any other questions, we're happy to answer.
Do you want questions to the applicant during the evidentiary or as rebuttal? Do you have a preference, Mr.?
I think you could go ahead and ask your questions.
Good, I prefer it, thank you. Anyone, any questions? I guess while we're in the evidentiary part, going at the four findings of fact, if you could put those on the record of where.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you say you printed the application? Yeah. So the four findings of fact, oh, and I think we forgot, Mr. Kimbrell's testimony and presentation, as well as the application, we'd like to be entered into the record. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Ms.
noted.
Schaefer, do you want me to put up the four findings of fact onto the screen?
That
Sorry,
would
it's
be
me over here.
fantastic.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Just a moment.
Thank you. Unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. Again, it's not necessary to demonstrate that no reasonable use can be made of the property. Of course, reasonable use, but unnecessary hardship will be created from strict application of the ordinance. There is just no other place to put portions of the drive-through and protect pedestrian safety, which is, again, public safety, pedestrian safety is an important part. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Clearly, the location and topography of this property, as we've shown with the 3 or 4 street frontages, is peculiar. The hardship did not result from any actions taken by the applicant. We didn't put the O&I zoned property where it is, and the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intents of the ordinance. The ordinance allows drive-throughs in O&I. A variance is the proper procedure when there are no other alternatives to create that. And I think the engineers have shown through working with staff that this is the alternative to allow this permitted use on this property.
Questions from anyone? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything the city would like to introduce during the evidentiary? Zach, anything? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. We'll move on to rebuttal. Is there anything further from the city? No? Does the applicant have anything further? All right, before we move into discussions, anyone have any questions from for either side? All right, we'll go ahead and move forward. We have a variance solely related to a drive-through. We have to focus just on the single variance in front of us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. It was mentioned a few times, are drive-throughs approved by right in O&I, or is there a specific process, or is this the process for drive-throughs? I know restaurants are permitted, but.
Yes, sir. Drive-throughs are permitted by right with the conditions, and one of those conditions is what the variance is based on today.
Okay, and the variance is the positioning of the drive-through?
That is correct.
Okay. And the drive-through, I'm sorry, I'm just going to fire these off while I got you. The drive-through is particular to what? Is it the ordering box, the ordering sign? Is it the pickup window?
It's any point of interaction.
Any point of interaction. Okay, so in this case, it'd be about 2 walls, right?
It would be, for me, it would be the order box, and then the pickup window would be the points of interaction that I would call out.
Anything further, sir? You good? Or you got any more?
Do we know what the future land use plan is for this parcel?
I do not know off the top of my head, but we're happy to look that up.
Be helpful for me if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Further discussions and questions or clarifications?
I don't want to reopen the evidentiary thing, but I was a little confused by a comment that I believe the attorney for the applicant indicated, which is that there might still be a possibility of changing where the drive-through would be located, so that I was left with the impression that
For
the map.
for that question, I am going to reopen it. It's not a problem.
Okay.
I'd rather reopen the evidentiary.
Kind of to your point, 'cause I mean, it seems to me that's
Since that's new.
core
Yeah.
question.
Can you put the site plan back?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reopen the evidentiary.
In other words, I guess if I may clarify my question, sounds strange, right? Because you're clarifying an uncertainty. I thought you mentioned that we're not entirely sure, indeed, where the drive-through would be located, because there'd be still discussion with, as you mentioned, the city with respect to Echo Farms Boulevard or I guess the state with respect to the bigger thoroughfare. Thank you.
Mr. Norman, I am sorry if I confused anybody. This is our site plan, and we hope this is where we have no intention of moving the drive-through. Now, you can see Plan North, the proposed private road, the driveways, and maybe I misspoke, and I apologize, the driveways onto the parcel from Echo Farms Boulevard and Carolina Beach Road. Those will be determined by the city and DOT ultimately as the site plan moves forward. The drive-through, we have no intention of moving unless, yeah.
Right, unless for some reason that proposed private road, if I'm hearing you correctly, gets shifted by these other discussions, then you have to adjust, I guess, the drive-through a little bit. Is that what
Yeah,
I'm
and I
hearing?
don't know where else it could go,
All right,
because again,
thank you.
they've been through multiple iterations.
Right, and I'm not an expert, but I just wanted, if I was hearing right. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
While we're still in, any other questions that are new information that to ask for the applicant? We can get it through rebuttal, but I think it's better to have it on the record through this process.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got one more question. This latest site plan, this has gone before city staff and has been approved, and now at this point, it's just a request of the variance for the position of the drive-through.
It's been through pre-TRC, and that's how we got to know what would be needed for the variances. But full TRC for stormwater and all of that, no. But pre-TRC, absolutely. That helps with design and helps you know what the setup would be. Stormwater has made comments about what they would want to see. Traffic and engineering have made comments about what they would want to see. For instance, one of the other variants that we requested previously was an escape aisle for the drive-through. That was a comment that came through traffic engineering during pre-TRC. So when that happened, the engineers went back and they were able to redesign this so that there is now that escape plan lane, if needed. That's a requirement of the code. But it will still go through formal TRC, stormwater review, traffic review, all of that as it moves forward.
Anyone else have questions? Like a lot of times, like our variances come before they actually go through the finalization. So it's sort of a unique process that's been since the land use code changed. Mm-hmm. But why we have this open before I close is anything else? Does the city have anything else to add? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the evidentiary. I'll go back, just reiterate, does the city have any further information to present? And does the applicant have any further? All right.
If you don't mind, I'd like to answer the board member's question about
yes,
the
yes,
comprehensive plan. This
Yeah.
area is identified as a greenfield site, area of opportunity. Our comprehensive plan provides some overall guidance for how the development should occur, but it does not identify any specific use for this location.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go back to discussion again.
I know that each variance request stands on its own merit, but we Actually heard a variance request very similar to this on a vacant lot to be developed with a drive-through. And that variance request was denied. And I think this is very similar. And in my opinion, the finding of fact number 4 cannot be met.
All right, so discussion or just?
I don't disagree with my colleague. I think one of the challenges we always face is that whereas things may be available or permissible as of right, that does not necessarily mean that they meet automatically the fourth finding of fact. So there's that. I would also suggest that I don't feel at this time what we've been presented would meet the first finding of fact, because I would find that, as the attorney herself mentioned, this area will be developed, and therefore it's not the case that an unnecessary hardship would be caused by a vote against the variance, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right, just in the discussion, so out of that discussion, is there a motion related to this matter?
I'd like to make a motion that the variance request for, property.
4125.
4125 Echo Farms Boulevard be denied based on failure to meet the 4 findings of fact.
All right, there's been a motion for denial of the variance. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, it's been motion and second. All those in favor of the denial say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Aye. The variance is denied. We'll move on to item number 2. Item number 2 involves 4118 Market Street, variance to the city section code 18-341, parking requirements to a multi-dwelling use. Zach?
Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, all right. Before we started, we'll recuse, and can we have the owner come up? All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is evidentiary hearing number 2. The subject property is located at 4118 Market Street. The applicant has proposed to rezone the subject property to MD17 for a 76-unit multiple dwelling development. 20 of these units are being dedicated for workforce housing for a minimum of 15 years. The site is currently zoned RB and currently contains a 76-room hotel use. These are photos of the existing conditions of the subject property. The applicant has submitted a request for a variance to the minimum residential parking standards. The subject property currently has 73 off-street parking spaces. No additional parking spaces are planned to be added for this project. Per the residential parking requirements set forth in the Land Development Code, the applicant is required to provide 80 off-street parking spaces. The applicant is requesting to reduce the minimum parking required to a total of 68 spaces. In front of you is the site plan provided by the applicant. This concludes staff's presentation. I'd like my presentation in case summary to be entered in the record. Happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here as well.
Question for Zach?
This may be for the applicant, but sorry, could you remind me how many units would there be then? Because we're comparing, and you mentioned the parking spaces, but I forgot the number for the residents.
76 total units,
76.
56 were traditional units, and 20 will be dedicated as workforce housing.
Got it. Thank you.
And just for the record, you want to just state what the variance is for, so we have that stated?
The variance is for the minimum standards for the parking, residential parking standards.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody, any other questions? All right, go ahead. Would the applicant like to present?
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Nicholas Sillivanch with Eastern Carolinas Commercial Real Estate, representing the property owner as applicant for the variance. Obviously, you know, we were here a couple months back for some of the changes, and we appreciate hearing what we did and needed and granting that to us. Today, we're here to clean up some of what happened in that transition. The standard would have been 80, now it's 68. In adding in some area for open space and in reconfiguring how we're going to stripe the parking lot, we lost 2 spaces for the striping, 2 spots were lost for public safety where that island's going to add green space in the front, and then another space was lost because it was converted from general use to an ADA space. So we went from having 73 parks down to 68 overall. We're not changing anything. We've done everything we could to try and figure out where to put additional parks, and most of the residents that will be living here may or may not have vehicles based on similar studio apartment projects that we have on Market Street right now. So beyond that, I've got Jake, our engineer, for any technical questions about the parking spaces, but that's what we're seeking here today is, you know, we're not changing anything. These are the existing conditions. We can't find a spot to put these other parks and meet some of the other requests that we've acquiesced to.
Questions for?
Yeah, question, I may should know this since you were before us before, but the land development code requires 80 off-street parking spaces. Did we grant a variance prior to reduce that to the 73 that are currently there, or are we trying to move from 80 down to 68?
No, we did not discuss that last time at all. If I wish we would have caught that last time, because then we wouldn't have been here this time.
Okay, so we're going from 80 required to 68 in the variance?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody?
And
Yes, sir.
just to be clear, there's not a parking space for every resident because you have more residents than you have parking spaces, is that correct?
If successful on the rezoning, yes, we would end up having 76 studio apartments, and we would have 68 parking spaces.
Any other questions? All right. Do you want to have your engineer talk about the design?
Jake Modesto, 16030 Moxie Glen Court, Charlotte. Just overall, looking down from the top down from what was previously presented to now from a site plan layout, there is a 2-foot difference in what you're looking at. Essentially, the same number of parking spaces were shown in the previous application, so there's no change in that. There's no change in the operations of the use. It was a technicality. I went to the pre-TRC. We thought this would have been caught, and it was an agreement that the applicant wasn't aware of as we went into that process. So the 5 parking spaces that were lost were shown on that previous one. Again, for public safety, there was one coming in that we lost, and we actually rectified the scenario. The parking spaces are currently under, as it sits today, are not the right size. They're 8 feet. Their city code is 8.5, so we lost it. When you start carrying that through the lateral of the property, we end up losing a parking space or 2 there. As far as top down, and we rectified the variance though. Looking at it today as it sits, it's actually non-conformance when it comes to the hotel use as well. The number of parking spaces and the demand for that by city code is actually a non-compliance, so we actually been rectifying that, or we bring it closer to compliance with code. So I just wanted to clarify that there really, from what you saw at the previous application, there is really no change to this, other than what I'd call as a technicality to the parking requirements. The applicant does feel that the number of parking spaces generated here is sufficient, as nothing has changed in the last application. And we've also provided the finding of facts as part of the submission package.
Questions at all? Anybody? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the evidentiary. hearing. If anyone has any information relevant to this matter, they can come forward. All right, seeing that we don't have any, we'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. Is there anything additional from the city? No? All right, from the applicant, any additional information? All right, that being the case, we'll go into a discussion and how you like to move forward with this.
Just for clarification, there was a sheet that was shown on here that mentioned workforce housing was only required half a park per unit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And at pre-TRC, it was shown as half a park per unit. And I think the understanding and confusion came up post the last BOA hearing that the entire development would not be workforce housing, only a portion of it, which then changed the parking regulations and calculations that you see before you today as part of the request.
Okay, so what you're saying is that those parking requirements, because it's only a portion of the property, don't apply? Is that correct?
Right, rather than the applicant providing the entire development as workforce housing, the workforce housing parking calculation for the half space per unit only applies to those units, not the entire development.
Yeah, understood. So then, I'm sorry if I missed this. What was the total unit count, and what was the total amount of parking that would be required? Is 70?
Well, the workforce housing is 20 units, so
There's
that would
20
be
units, right?
10 spaces for the workforce housing.
76 units that are proposed. It's the same number of units that are there today.
Yeah.
And the number of parking spaces would be 80 spaces if you're taking that just without the variance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe my math is poor, but what I think I'm hearing is, and I'd ask the city to clarify, so 76 units, of which 20 are workforce, right? Each of those requires half a parking spot. So by my calculation, that would be 10 in effect, right, for those 20. So if you take 20 out of 76, you've got 56, so you'd have to have 56 plus 10, right, for those 20 workforce units, which gets you to 66, which is below the 68 that I believe was mentioned. Am I right?
It's 1.5, so it's 3 times the amount for workforce. That was the big factor.
So instead of 1, it's 1.5 for the non-workforce units.
Oh, I see. So that is spread across. In effect, I see. It's not per workforce unit.
Right.
It's not a one-to-one thing. Thank you.
Overall, the ratio is just at that one work rate, 0.9 for like 1-to-1 ratio overall for the entire development.
And you
Thank
did, sorry, you go ahead.
No, thank you for clarifying.
You mentioned these are all studios? These are all one-bedroom studios?
Yes, there's no change to the interior of the building.
Other thoughts? Thank you for that, sir. Anyone?
I would make a motion to approve the variance as requested. I do believe that it meets the 4 findings of fact.
All right, so we have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. All right, thank you. Next one, we'll move on to item number 3, 6312, Pigfish Lane, a variance to Legacy City Code Section 18-248 and 18-249 to locate a detached accessory dwelling unit in front of a primary dwelling. Tucker?
Good afternoon. Do we have? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This subject property is located at 6312 Pigfish Lane. It is currently zoned R20 Legacy District. Is approximately half an acre and is undeveloped. The owner is constructing a new single-family home and has proposed adding
a square or a detached accessory structure for storage. The owner was issued building permits for the construction of the primary single dwelling on or about January 28th, 2026. The variance request, variance to Legacy City Code Section 18-249 for a detached accessory structure to be located in the front of the primary dwelling unit. Due to the configuration of the lot and the dwelling's proximity to the waterway, the accessory structure has been proposed between the primary residence and Pigfish Lane, approximately in the red shaded area. That doesn't indicate the footprint of the accessory structure, rather just the approximate location. And so again, the request, this is the language from the code, Section 18-249B, location of accessory buildings. On all lots, accessory buildings shall be located only to the side or rear of the principal structure. Accessory structure shall not extend any closer towards the front of a lot than the forwardmost projection of the principal structure, including but not limited to porches, steps, entryways, etc. I would like to include this presentation and relevant materials into the record, and this concludes staff's presentation, unless you have any questions for me.
Any question?
I got a quick question. I know the 1,000-foot storage structure is going to be located somewhere within the red square. Should we not be a little bit more specific on our variance request and say it's okay to stick it somewhere in this little red square? I mean, should the variance say, this is where we're going to put it, and this is the variance we need to put it right here?
Yes, sir. So the variance is for the location, since it won't be in the rear or side of the primary structure. At the time they would apply for permits, and this will be reviewed to meet applicable code standards.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Tucker at this time? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does the applicant wish to speak or present?
Tucker, did we have the slides? Is that, okay, thank you. I think that's it right there, yeah. Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Parker. My wife and I, Allison, are the owners of the subject property located at 6312 Pigfish Lane. I have a few slides that I want to go through very briefly. First of all, I'd just like to discuss the proximity of the project. Pigfish Lane is located on the corner of Shandy Lane off of Greenville Sound. If you'll notice the two existing parcels to the west of 6312, the front yard setback is facing Pigfish Lane. The larger parcel that 6312 was subdivided by a prior developer, not my wife and I, was a single parcel, approximately 4 acres, with a single-family dwelling on the property. The parcel was subdivided, and the developer obtained 2 lots, 6312 and 6316. Okay, I think we can go to the next. Do I need to just tab? Oh, sorry. So the next tab is just my design team is watching remotely, and they have developed this diagrammatic for us to review. And shaded in red, well, in gray, we've provided the delineation of the impervious area of the home, the roof area, and in red are the limitations of the front yard, side yards, and the rear setback. To the north is a 15-foot access easement all the way through the property to the common area. To the east, that was a part of the subdivision requirement to the prior developer. To the west, there is a 20-foot access easement to 6316 Pigfish Lane, Lot B, and then therefore the setback, the front yard setback, was dictated at the edge of the 20-foot easement to Lot B. On the east side of the property, there's a 77.5-foot waterfront view preservation setback that was dictated in the original subdivision by the original developer. So you can see the constraints with the site. There's essentially nowhere to put an accessory structure. I guess in response to your question, Mr. Moore, I think that maybe since we have indicated the location of the accessory structure, that, with the accessory structure, the variance request is for an accessory structure less than 1,000 square feet. But I think given the complexity of the parcel and the number of easements and setbacks via the site easement, the 2 access easements, there really is only one location that this can go. And I tend to agree that the variance should be written to allow that to be within that certain area. Obviously not more than 1,000 square feet. There's also impervious constraints for the site, 6312 as well as 6316 that has been recorded. There's an engineered stormwater plan that is required for both lots, which has been reviewed and approved by the city of New Hamburg County and all jurisdictions having authority. And so obviously we cannot exceed the allowable impervious area with the addition of the accessory structure. So I tend to agree, Mr. Moore, with your comment about, delineating that would be, the accessory structure would be allowable within that delineated area. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, I'm sorry. So here we actually have delineated the proposed accessory structure. Obviously, it would be a maximum 1,000 square foot area, and we would be less than that. On the next slide, my design team has provided conceptual rendering so you can see to scale the existing home, which is under construction, which we saw photos of, and then the proposed accessory structure, which primary use will be garden tool storage, small garden tractor, and a side-by-side farm utility vehicle. We feel like this is a great addition to the project, and we respectfully request approval of the variance.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? All right, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and move into the evidentiary hearing. Is there anyone that has any additional information or relevant to this matter?
Thank you. Seth Buskirk on behalf of Scott Hedrick and Catherine Hedrick, the adjacent property owners. I'm with the Clark, Newton, and Evans law firm.
And just your address for the record, please.
My work address is 509 Princess Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28401.
All right, thank you.
And our client, Mr. Hedrick, submitted a letter with attachments to the city.
Sir, if you could make sure that you're speaking into the microphone.
Oh, thank you. And may I approach to hand those up just to...
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give them to Casey, and she'll go through those.
I'm gonna hand up some other attachments too.
Yeah,
so
that's
everybody
good. You
has
can give her all that, and she'll give it to the city to look at too.
Okay, so going to the findings of fact that are required for
And
this.
you can adjust those too if you need to.
Yeah,
For
it's new fancy place we're at right now.
We're high tech now.
So anywho, as to the first finding of fact, the unnecessary hardship.
We can't even hear you when you don't. Sorry.
No, I was trying to, my notes were mixed up with everything else.
No worries, thank you.
No, we're good now though. Now, as to the unnecessary hardship, in the application packet submitted by the applicant, the hardship identified is a place to store lawn equipment, that without the variance, he can't store lawn equipment. Now, this is notwithstanding the fact that the house that's been permitted, that is now currently under construction by the applicant, has a 1,000 square foot of storage space in the house, made up of a 3-car garage and mechanical storage areas. That's more storage space already than a lot of people's primary home in the city. So the idea that a lack of the storage space that he is seeking to use creates a hardship is not correct because there is no hardship. He's got storage space that's more than adequate to store his lawn equipment and side-by-side and tractor in a 3-car garage. As far as the second element, that the hardships are conditions that are particular to the property, there are no unique characteristics to this property. It's a half-acre rectangular lot. It was undeveloped when it was purchased. There are all kinds of lots, far smaller than that, within the city of Wilmington that accommodate a single-family home and an accessory structure. I own 2 of them myself. I own one on a 1/4-acre lot that's got a garage in the back, and one on a 1/3-acre lot with a garage in the back. So there's no uniqueness here to that. What we're really talking about here, though, is that it is a self-created hardship. He built a 5,000 square foot house on this lot, and it's under construction right now. It was just recently permitted. If the house was smaller, there would be room for an accessory structure, but the house is not smaller. So it's kind of using this variance process as a way to take an inroad or a shortcut around the permitting process. Because you can imagine that if this accessory structure was put in the original permitting packet, it would have been denied. As to the fourth finding, whether or not the variance request is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance with respect to public safety and substantial justice, they cannot meet that element either. Public safety is not considered. There's a concern here raised by Mr. and Mrs. Hedrick that emergency access is going to be hampered because of the limited size of the easement to get to the other parcel, the parcel B on the plat, which is also in the packet you can see. There's no addressing of the impervious surface also created by the addition of this accessory structure. I realize that's probably going to be dealt with in stormwater permitting, but our client asked us to bring that up. But finally, another thing about substantial justice is that this isn't the only problem that's going to affect this applicant. The accessory structure also appears to be barred by the covenants and restrictions that govern this property, which are included in the packet. Now, the applicant discussed the site easement on the rear of the property, but if you go to the covenants that are included with the packet, and they're out of order in this submission. It looks like the signature pages and the New Hanover County, like the final page for the recorded documents, they come first. But if you go to the Declaration of Restrictive Covenants, under number 1, there's a bar of any sheds or tents, shacks, barns, or similar structures other than the single-family home. Now, this is a new Declaration of Restrictive Covenants, but this mimics the similar restrictive covenant that's found throughout the Sandy Point neighborhood. And while that's not, necessarily part of what, we're not here to enforce covenants in this setting, but as far as substantial justice and the fourth element seems like it's sort of a catch-all, if you will, that, he's got another problem that he's got to deal with. But the main thing, this is really about the size of the house. If he would have built a house that is smaller, he could have built an accessory structure behind it that would fit within the current zoning code. And this is a quintessential self-imposed hardship. He built this house, and he's building it now. And happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry, a couple questions, and this may also go to the applicant. So, what you termed parcel B is what's shown here is lot B, I guess, just to be clear.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, and forgive me, your client vis-a-vis this property is located where, sir?
Yes, my client is at, let me make sure I got the address correctly. It's 6306. So that's the parcel, it would be parcel 3A4A.
Right. Okay, got it. It's like to
Yeah,
the west, I think.
Next door neighbor
Yeah,
west. Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
But this just seems like a textbook example of a self-imposed hardship, if there is a hardship to be found, if you get that far.
All right, anyone else have questions? All right, all right, thank you,
Thank
sir. Well, you'll have time to come up too, yeah, you'll definitely be given an opportunity. Yes, sir. Is there anyone else that'd like to present any information? All right, sir, you can come back up to.
Thank you, Mr. Buskirk. It seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Buskirk's primary objection is a self-inflicted hardship due to the size of the house. Well, his facts are incorrect. If you look at New Hanover County and the permit documents, the gross living area of the home is 4,080 square feet, not 5,000 square feet. He also indicated that the garage is 1,000 square feet, which is incorrect. The garage is 810 square feet. It just seems like there's, you know, his client's property is to the west, and the accessory structure, which prior to his client purchasing his property, which he recently did, there was an existing accessory structure on this property in nearly the exact location that we're proposing our accessory structure, which can be evident in the aerials that are available via New Hanover County's website. I'm trying to think of any, I'm not sure I understand why his client would object given the location of our proposed accessory structure, other than his potential view of the intercoastal waterway, which would detriment the value of his property, which I have the right to install an 8-foot fence, and the height of this accessory structure is a single-story structure, 10 feet in height. Like the height limitation, you know, we're not trying to build a house here. You know, to say that I can't store a side-by-side and a farm tractor and garden equipment when my property allows me in the 25-foot rear setback to the east of my property to have a 4-foot tall fence, 4-foot tall tomato plants, yada, 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 and to say that I shouldn't have somewhere to store my tractor and my equipment just seems, I'm just not quite sure of the objection. And Mr. Buskirk, you know, his facts are incorrect. He does not have facts. And so I would like for this to be evaluated based on the facts, not on stated information that is incorrect.
All right, and so I guess we can revert back to how your variance relates to the 4 findings of fact, and those are what you have to meet for the variance. So we take all the information in and review it based on the substance, and we have the ability to.
Okay, and the fact
work
that indeed the site is a half acre, but in the diagrammatic that I reviewed, like the site preservation setback, you know, there's that 77.5 foot waterfront view preservation setback that does not allow anything, fence structure, anything over 4 feet in height. You know, the easement that was created by the prior developer on the north side of the project for the common area that has been deeded in conservation is unbuildable, as well as the 20 feet on the west side of the property, which there's an access easement for Lot B that was created by the prior developer. The restrictive covenants that said that you cannot have a shed, like this is not a shed. I guess, anyway, I don't have any further comments.
Okay, all right.
A quick question. The Pigfish Lane LLC, the declarations of restrictive covenants, I don't know if there's an architectural review committee, I doubt it, but has anyone reviewed the storage facility and said it meets the criteria?
There's not an architectural review committee.
Right.
No, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Parker? And we may have some.
And if there's, you know, comments from neighbors, I spoke directly with the owner, Allison Bell of Lot B, 6316.
It's considered hearsay, but thank you. Yes, sir.
As to the square footage of the permitted structure, I'm just referring to the permit information that I got from the city's website, which is included in the package that I sent up. It says the square footage of the project that has been approved is 5,210 square feet. Of that, 4,090 square feet are a four-bedroom, 4.5-bath home with conditioned 3-car garage, mechanical storage space totaling approximately 1,140 square feet. So again, though, 4,000 square foot, 5,000 square foot, if you build a smaller house, you could have built a accessory structure behind it that would comply with the zoning. So this is a self-imposed hardship. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, anyone else that would like to speak during the evidentiary? All right, I'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. Does the city have, Tucker, any additional information? Mr. Parker, do you have any additional information? No, sir. All right, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and discussion.
Can we see the variance requested specifically?
That work? Any questions related to that?
So the variance is for the accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the primary dwelling.
Versus the side or the rear? Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Other questions? One thing that came about the protective covenant, the covenants and the review, that's not really anything we have anything that we can do with. If there is such a thing, and that's a civil matter. Am I correct, Mr. Satterfield?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thoughts regarding the variance request?
Can we get the site plan pulled back up, if you don't mind? I'm sorry.
No, there's no problem.
You got it.
Any? Do I have to ask? I'm sorry.
The waterway.
Yeah, you have to. Your discussions have to be public, so you'll have to speak into the microphone.
Yeah. So I now thank you for clarifying that there's the preservation setback then on that other side of the property, and that is why, therefore, the applicant is seeking the variance to place this extra accessory on the western side, I guess, of the property. If I read this correctly, thank you.
Yeah, and then so when you take because the placement. I mean, if you look at what the physical address would be, and where the rear and the side, where the placement of that house would be, and then you take consideration the size of it into consideration. I think you have to look at all those to decide if it meets the four.
So it doesn't, this proposed structure is not encroaching in any of the existing setbacks? And what's being proposed right here with this outline? All of this is buildable area that's not in a setback?
Sorry,
Sir, you'll have to come. You have to come up to the microphone.
Yeah, you can come up to the microphone. Yeah, we have to have things recorded.
Thank you.
So given this property, the front yard is on the west side of the property. So this property has a 30-foot setback on the front of the property.
So all of this is included, there's basically no land that's buildable within that 30 foot is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
Like,
okay, okay.
because of the peculiar orientation of the home, all the other homes on Pigfish Lane, the front yard is to the north.
Okay, that's what's messing me up. I was thinking
Yeah,
that
it's a little
the orientation
confusing.
of the building.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a little confusing.
Okay.
And actually, the way that the building is designed, the front door is facing north, identical to all the other residents on Pigfish Lane. So the front of the house is to the north, identical to all the homes on Pigfish Lane. We tried to develop the project so that it was in harmony with the other homes on Pigfish Lane. So to us, and from a design perspective, the front of the house, the front door, the main entry of the house is on the north of property, just like every other home on Pigfish Lane. And, you know, the house is designed and it lives as if the west side is the side yard.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is that.
Thank you
like
for
that
clarifying.
placement. Okay. All right. Anyone have a thoughts either for approval or denial of the variance?
Well, if I may, I feel like with respect to 2 and 4, the applicant has met those because the property is definitely peculiar with all those issues of setback and so forth. And I think that to the extent that the applicant just added, which I perhaps didn't hear before, that in effect, the house has been designed to face northward for the most part. It would be generally in keeping with the spirit of why we tend to want to have detached accessory dwellings not in front of most structures. But I would certainly ask my colleagues here how they feel about 1 and 3. Thank you.
Anyone's thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant on number 3 right now about the hardship being created by the applicant. The property was permitted, went through the process, and it was approved, and this is being added after the fact on basically non-buildable land within a setback, if my understanding is correctly.
But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the positioning of this lot. The lot is laid out different than some of the others where the placement of this. And I think you can, like, it's always hard when we try to, because so many of these, like so many people want to move these to different ways, and we see a lot of times where we can't go that route, but we have to look at is this unique and, you know, how you feel on that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that the setbacks, given the shape of the lot and size of the lot, are unique.
Yeah, I mean, like our variance can't overrule they're not asking for a setback. They're purely asking for the placement of the accessory unit. And so we're not encroaching into setbacks in any way on this if we did approve this.
Understood.
Yeah, so it's solely it meet because of the placing it in front versus, and that's the interpreting like how this lot is laid out. Does that warrant a variance? Does anyone have a motion? All right, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion for approval of the variance. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, before you guys move forward, I just want to point out, you're talking about setbacks. The front setback here would be 30 feet. If you do allow an accessory structure in front of the house, those setbacks will be 5 feet.
That's okay.
So there would be an impact on the setbacks here.
Okay, that's important because I had it being that it would not impact for the approval side.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I have a motion out there. I'll withdraw that motion with that additional information. Yes, sir. Well, yes, you can. You're the applicant, so yeah.
So the setback is currently dictated from the 20-foot access easement for Lot B, which is peculiar. So I think based on the site plan, it is indicating it would be 25 feet off the property line. I would be willing to accept a variance for the 30 feet from the property line. So therefore, in essence, it would not be in what would have been perceived a 30-foot setback. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm not trying to put this
Yeah.
thing closer to 30 feet from the property line.
Yeah, to your original motion, you could dictate 30, the 30-foot setback remain.
From the property line.
And can I get clarification from the city about how that looks?
I guess my request is that the location would be approved outside of 30 feet from the west property boundary. And therefore, I would not be asking for, special treatment to place the accessory structure inside of 30 feet within the west property boundary.
So your request would be still the placement of it in front, but you would be in agreement that you would fall within the normal setbacks prior to a variance?
No, I'm saying that it would be outside of 30 feet of the west property boundary.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
that front setback is 30 feet, and it's measured from the edge of the paved portion of the easement, not the property line.
Okay.
And to be clear, that easement is paved? Is that what we're seeing here on this?
It is not paved.
I hadn't heard that it was paved.
I don't know the condition. That's just where the setback is drawn from, whether the improvement to that required easement, I'm not sure of what that is at this point.
I see.
But the setback is pulled from the improved portion of the easement.
Do we have an image we can
Thank
pull
you.
up so we can have a better view of that?
I know that it's in mine. I don't know that if I can get back to that slide, that may show it there. Tucker, can you help me with this? I guess I'm technologically challenged. Okay, so you can see the 20-foot easement. I don't know if I can point to anything, but in the southwest corner of the property, to the left, all the way to the left of the page, right there. So you can see a 4-foot dimension, a 16-foot dimension. There's a 16-foot pavement section requirement per the city. And then it's showing the 30-foot front setback line from the edge of pavement. And that's consistent around the entire access easement. If you look at the radius to the north of the easement, then the setback to 30-foot setback is from the northeast corner of the access easement. And you can see that radius where the diagrammatic of the tree is drawn in. So I guess that's my point, that there's the setbacks are extenuating on this site, given there's a lot of constraints, which we believe is a hardship. I mean, it's not just a 30-foot set, and like the purpose of the 30-foot setback at the northeast side of the access easement, that's our driveway. You can see the driveway entrance there where it transitions from a pavement section to a concrete paving section. And so it's just to have that 30-foot setback is there's just a lot of constraints on the setbacks, easements, and whatnot on this site.
And there's one more drawing that was shown earlier that showed a 1,000 square foot accessory building on this lot. Can we pull that back up just one more time, please?
I guess it should be noted as well that, I can plant trees.
Go back one.
I
Yes.
can plant trees to any height within that setback. And so if Mr. Buskirk's client is concerned with his view to the intercoastal waterway, which is exceptional from his property right now, it will be blocked by plantings, regardless of whether there's an accessory structure here or not. I'm just not sure what the opposition is.
I mean, the opposition is what you're asking for isn't something that's permitted. That's why you're here for a variance, so.
Understood.
And like I said, that we can't address the fact of those type of things.
And I'm willing to move the accessory structure to however far you would like from the property line where it would still remain reasonable that I could build an accessory structure. Because there's nowhere else on the property. And, to build a 4,000 square foot house on a half-acre lot when the adjacent property is a 6,000 to 7,000 square foot house, it's nearly twice the size of this home. I don't think that is outlandish by any means. 4,000 square foot house in this Shandy Point neighborhood is a relatively, median or on the smaller side. There's extremely large waterfront homes in this setting, and a 4,000 square foot home is not an elaborate home. This is a very constrained building site that would not allow us to build a home larger than 4,000 square feet.
All right, I appreciate all the input.
And one other note, the home is a single-story home. It's 3,400 square feet on the main living level, where there's 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. The ground level is, in essence, a garage, and, it's designed, we're just out of the flood zone, and it's designed where the house will not flood. This is not a large house. It's a 3,400 square foot of living area on the upper main level of the home.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, good. We'll go back to the discussion where we are within the 4 findings and your thoughts. So going back into we'll go back to what the original variance is. Like I said, there's been talk about moving and things of that nature, but let's consider the original variance, what your thoughts are.
Here's my last question. I'm sorry if I'm not tracking you on this, but
you can ask as many as you want.
If this was approved, would this not require, or at least an addition to the motion to approve it for a variance to encroach in the setbacks?
No, and we'll let Brian. That was where I was thinking it was moved over.
It's staff position that if you allow for the accessory structure to be located in front, we would apply the accessory structure setbacks.
Which
would be 5 feet.
Understood, okay.
But yeah.
But we can't condition the motion on leaving, requiring a 30-foot setback, can we not?
I believe you can condition anything, right? I believe you could add condition you think is appropriate.
Right, okay, so.
Yeah, we can, and the applicant could say no, but yeah, you definitely can put those conditions in.
So put your original motion back in play with a caveat that the setback of 30 feet remain.
Yeah, you want me to, or you? Okay, I'll make a motion for the approval with the change to it being 30 feet from I want to make sure I'm clear on where I'm taking that.
It would be, from my understanding, what the applicant said, it would be 30 feet from the property line, not from the paid portion of the easement.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And is that acceptable? It's shown that it is acceptable by the applicant, so I'll I've made the motion. Is there a second?
If I may, sorry, a little question on that. So 30 feet from the property line, but if it's an accessory structure, then would we also, within that, require it be 5 feet from the edge of that, I guess, currently gravel easement?
I believe the 30-foot setback from the property line would also satisfy that requirement for a 5-foot setback from the improved portion of the easement.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay,
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
sorry to interrupt, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we're not making something that's not, that we're
Yes, sir.
making a second problem. Okay. All right.
I second that motion.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, the variance passes 4-1 with the revision. All right. We're going to move on to item number 4. Before we start with this, I have to recuse myself from this item, and I would ask Mr. Moore take over. Follow instructions. Here's the, I mean, I don't know.
And down to the middle.
Welcome aboard. Next item before the Board of Adjustment is item 4, 1009 South 13th Street, variance to City Code 18-316, tree removal standards to remove or impact the critical root zone of specimen trees in the MD 17 district. Pat?
Thank you, Board. Good afternoon. As mentioned, this subject property is located at 1009 South 13th Street, and it's currently located within the Hillcrest housing development. This proposed new construction for this project consists of the Phase 1 of the Hillcrest community redevelopment. The site's currently zoned MD17, multiple dwelling residential, and it's currently occupied by the Hillcrest development, and those are residential uses, primarily duplexes, I believe, throughout the site. The applicant's requesting variances to Land Development Code Section 18-316 for the removal of specimen trees, as well as an increase in the critical root zone impacts for additional specimen trees that are located within this Phase 1 portion of the redevelopment. Here are some photos of existing conditions, and specifically the specimen trees to be removed as part of the applicant's proposal here today. I have pictures here of trees 28, tree 26, and here trees 8, 9, 10, and 13 in both of these photos. And I'll go into more detail specifically on each tree in a moment. So, as mentioned, pursuant to Section 18-316 of Land Development Code, any live oak with a minimum diameter or breast height, or DBH, of 24 inches is classified as a specimen tree. Removal of a specimen tree shall only be authorized by a variance from this board, the Board of Adjustment. Additionally, any disturbance within the critical root zone that exceeds 20% of the critical root zone of the tree requires a variance from this board as well. So we'll see kind of two parts here. The removal of some of these specimen trees shown by the applicant, as well as an increase in the critical root zone for some of these specimen trees as well, but those trees are proposed to be retained on site. Here's the overall site plan and proposed redevelopment. This is for the Phase 1 portion, which is located near 13th and Mears Street. The trees highlighted in those red circles, those are your specimen trees proposed to be removed, while the ones you see with the larger circles, those highlight the critical root zones of the trees to be retained. The area shown in orange is existing impacts within that critical root zone of those trees, as well as a blue hatching that you'll see, which is additional impacts proposed by the development within that critical root zone for those trees. I did want to mention there is flexibility within the city's land development code regarding tree preservation. Specifically, modifications are permitted for certain site design standards that the city has in the code. Those include parking requirements, reductions in parking, streetscape landscaping. That can be reduced or altered, eliminated. landscape islands, same as well there, and foundation plantings, as well as setbacks for buildings. All of those things can be adjusted in the name of preserving protected trees, not just specimen trees, any protected trees on site. So again, to highlight the specimen trees that are being removed, I have circled those in a darker red color, which they consist of two 30-inch live oaks, a 32-inch live oak, 37, 40-inch, and 44-inch, all live oaks. Here are those individual trees with photos and their current existing condition. This is tree 28, and then on the right is a site plan showing the 4-story proposed senior living phase 1 facility and the tree's current location in relation to the building and the design that the applicants proposed. Here's tree number 26 on the left, and then their proposed essentially building entrance walkway and the 4-story building and where that tree is in relation to the proposal. Moving along kind of up the proposed right-of-way that the applicant has as part of this phase 1, which will connect into the further redevelopment of the site. Tree number 8 here highlighted in the photo on the left-hand side. And then the proposed impacts there of the road and curb. Similar here is tree number 9, which has been impacted a bit by power lines and trimming. And I do have the conditions listed for each one of these trees on the slides. Those are provided from the applicant and their arborist and tree company who performed the assessment on site. Here's tree number 10 and tree number 13 and the proposed improvements for each of those as well. So now I'm shifting into the specimen trees that are to be retained as part of this development. These are being retained, but they are being impacted further than what they currently are. So I have a table on the left-hand side that you can see showing the critical root zone impact currently, the proposed impact. I did want to make a note on the tree number 7, highlighted in yellow. The city's arborist was able to visit the site and determined that that is actually not a live oak, it is a laurel oak. A laurel oak is not a specimen tree. So that is not under the purview of the Board of Adjustment. That will be handled as part of the TRC review, but I just wanted to make note that that tree is being taken out of the request here due to the species change noted by the city arborist. Staff does recommend some conditions in regards to the preservation of these trees, specifically the trees that are shown to be retained by the applicant. We are recommending a preservation plan be developed by the applicant's arborist to minimize impact to these existing trees using best practices. That plan would be reviewed and approved by the city arborist, and the trees that could be impacted could be bonded for a period of 3 years to ensure survivability. And at that time, if the trees are still surviving, they could receive that bond back for the mitigation. And additionally, if the board so chooses to preserve additional trees that are proposed to be removed, we would ask that these conditions be added for any other trees that were to be retained if the board so chooses. As a reminder, the applicant must demonstrate their meeting the 4 findings of fact here shown on the site plan or on the slideshow and in your packets. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Sally Thigpen, Assistant Director for Parks and Recreation, here to answer any questions regarding tree preservation methods. The applicant is here as well. I'd like my presentation and case summary be entered into the record.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. No?
Yes, thank you. I wonder if the city could remind us, if a specimen tree is being removed, is there anything in the code that would either require or encourage the replacement in either a 1-to-1 or a more than 1-to-1 ratio, sir?
Yes, there is a mitigation requirement. It's a 200% requirement. So A 40-inch live oak would require 80 inches of mitigation, and that can be done either through replanting or payment in lieu. The payment in lieu option is $175 per inch of mitigation required.
This may be a question for the applicant, but is the applicant going to go with the mitigation with plantings or monetary, or have they proposed that either way?
I will defer to the applicant on that
We'll
question.
wait till you give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question on 3 of the trees that are being proposed to be removed, 28, 10, and 13. So I drove by this property the last few days, and so 28 down there at the very bottom of the page is currently very near an existing structure that would be torn down, I guess as part of phase 1. And I guess what I'm wondering is if that tree is currently surviving between the existing structure and the road, and in this schematic, it looks like it would still be in a natural area between the proposed new building and the road, why does it need to be taken out?
I would defer to the applicant for the reason for the removal of that tree.
All right, let's go to tree number 10. So that tree looks like it is currently in a natural area outside of any hardscape. And I have sort of the same question: if the new road is being constructed such that it is between, it doesn't appear to impact the trunk of the tree anyway. And so I've got the same question. I guess you'll defer that to the applicant as well.
I will, yes.
Okay, all right. So let's go to number 13. I'm not clear by this drawing, what is the square part of, I understand, I guess, what the entrance to the parking lot looks like there, just below that number 13, but what is that tree on top of?
Yes, that area looks to be sidewalk and driveway apron. Directly to the south, I believe, is what you're referring to, the squares.
Yeah.
Yes, that's sidewalk and driveway apron.
So you think that that dot where that tree is proposed to be a sidewalk?
Right, a continuation of that sidewalk.
Is
However, there are options to maybe shift that driveway to the south and potentially minimize the impacts to that tree. Again, I would defer to the applicant on the ability to do that.
Yeah, I just really want to try to do everything we can to preserve, as I think we all do, these beautiful trees that have been here since World War II or whatever, some of them. And so to the extent, a sidewalk could be, circled around a tree and without damaging it too much, or a right-of-way be shifted a little bit to preserve, something that's been there for 80 years. I would love to make every effort. I'm not saying the applicant is not, but I'd love to make every effort to double down on that. My next question has to do with the critical root zones. The standard is 20%, is that right?
The maximum allowable.
Maximum allowable is 20%.
Yes.
Some of these get up to 64 or whatever. My question, and I'm not sure, maybe to an arborist or something, is if you get up beyond 50% of the critical root zone, do you automatically get into a place where you're seriously jeopardizing the health of this very mature tree? I wonder, for these that we've said we're going to try to save, if we're really saving them at all. I just don't, I don't have enough knowledge to know that.
I will defer to Sally Thigpen to help answer those questions. I am not an arborist, so I'm not qualified to speak on that specifically. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Sally Thigpen with the Parks and Recreation Department. Yes, regarding your question for critical root zone, this is an International Society of Arboriculture standard. The critical root zone for us is 1.25 feet per inch of DBH. That's the standard in the code. And any impact above that 20%, any impact above that 20% is seriously jeopardizing the ability of that tree to live and the ability of that tree to stay standing. In a situation like this where there's already impacts, we try to accommodate to a certain degree. That's why the arborist evaluations are so important, because each tree condition is different, and that is what is being taken into consideration. But essentially, once we're exceeding 20+% of that critical root zone, you are seriously impacting the ability of that tree to survive, and therefore, they won't meet the criteria to stay alive as part of the project.
Can I ask, to follow up on that? So if these trees are currently 52, 54, 42, 22 currently, and we increase that by, 8 to 10% per tree or something close to that, is the thought that the way they got currently at 52, 54 is because they grew and they encroached into existing structures and that kind of thing? So they're able to live.
Exactly. So as you know, trees can grow almost anywhere, and
Right.
over time, their roots are going to find the path of least resistance to get
Right.
the nutrients and the water that they need to survive. The problem with impacting that critical root zone is that it'll result in cutting the existing roots. We don't necessarily know where they are. So additional impact is what creates the concern about the tree's
So even a
survivability.
10% impact could be significant to a mature tree.
Correct.
Well, thank you very much. You've almost answered the question I was about to ask, which is what do we mean, and this may be something to defer to the applicant about, when we say impact? Is it just that you're putting an impermeable surface over part of the root system, or is, as you've just suggested, you're somehow, as you're rebuilding things, you're cutting the root network, or a bit of both? I mean, what's that term generally mean, if I may ask, ma'am?
Yes, impact is going to include cut, fill, and compaction.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city? Thank you. Applicant, like a presentation? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Acting Chairman Moore, members of the board. My name is Sam Frank. I represent the applicant, the Wilmington Housing Authority. I have a couple folks with me today. Elena Camacho with the Wilmington Housing Authority, Alex Adekoya with Adura Group, a developer working with the Housing Authority, and Shad Walters, our civil engineer. I don't intend preemptively to ask them to present information in connection with our presentation today, but if you have questions you think better answered by a representative of the landowner or a civil engineer, you will not offend me in any way by asking. And so as the conversation evolves, I may ask those folks to respond to some of your questions. Let me respond to a couple questions that were just raised before I go into our presentation. First, Mr. Norman, with regard to impact, we don't draw a distinction between cutting 8 feet down for a footing and putting 1 inch of fill on top of the existing soil. That is all an impact. And so part of what I'll show you here a little bit later in the presentation is our best guess as to the distinction between where we will be doing a nominal amount of fill that we don't think will have any impact on the existing root systems versus the areas where we know we have to dig and we will likely have an impact on the existing root systems. Second, big picture, this is a site that is in a fantastic and incredible location. With regard to the opportunity to provide exactly the kind of housing that it has historically and that we intend for it to provide in the future. It's close to existing commercial nodes, it's close to several places of business, it's close to schools, it's close to public transportation. It is also exceptionally outdated. The buildings and the infrastructure, the pipes in the ground, all of it are over 80 years old. And so it is not realistic to either continue the operation of the site in its current condition or to simply replace things in exactly the place where they're located. Anytime you have redevelopment of a historic or an older site, I should say, you're going to have a challenge with the existing landscaping. And hands down, the easiest thing to do here would just be to ask your permission to remove all of these trees. We don't want to do that. If at all possible, we would like to combine some of those trees into the future landscaping for this site. Of course, there's going to be significant new plantings included with it. And I'll show you some images as we go along here. But before I got into the presentation, I wanted to make the fundamental point that where we have asked for permission to change the impact to the CRZ, that's demonstrative of our genuine and concerted, careful effort to find a way to save a specimen tree where we could do so. I just talked about the central location of the site, really is fantastic. We're talking about 26 acres of land. Currently, we've got 256 homes spread across 98 structures. They were constructed in the World War II era. Today, we are asking for your consent related to tree removal for the first phase of development. That's shown in the red box on the screen here. Phasing of the redevelopment of this site is economically viable, practically reasonable. It also affords an opportunity to significantly limit displacement of residents who currently reside at Hillcrest. And so by completing new homes in phases, we are able to relocate homes within the development in a manner that reduces the impact on those who live there and depend on it. The full redevelopment here will deliver not just affordable housing, but also mixed income housing, including some senior restricted housing. It will also more than double the number of housing units available. We'll go from 256 to 550 homes on this site after redevelopment. And so the redevelopment, as any good redevelopment would, contemplate significant open space and green space. This is a very conceptual level image, and please understand that our design work on the total site is at that level today, whereas we've done a little bit more specific design on phase one that we're talking to you about. A couple things that I want you to note here. One, preservation of green is important. As you can see, that's been incorporated into the total design. Two, the impact on the site, particularly in phase one, is disproportionately higher than it is in the other phases. We're going to be back here in the years to come. We're going to come and talk to you about subsequent phases and subsequent occasions where we need to impact specimen trees that are located on the site. As long as the UDA requires that, we'll be here. But we anticipate that our future requests to you will be less significant for future phases than they are in this one. And hopefully this image helps to demonstrate graphically what I'm describing to you there. Now, while the removal of these 6 specimen trees is indeed truly necessary to get this done, please understand that the future landscaping plan contemplates not only saving several trees that are not specimen trees, but also planting a significant number of trees, 76 new trees to be exact, within in the first phase of the development. This is a blow up of just the first phase of the development to show the post-construction incorporation of new landscaping along with the contemplated specimen trees to be preserved. A little bit confusing, and I apologize for that. Trees number 3 and number 5, which are located on the right side of this image, and also on the right side of this image, are actually located outside of phase 1. The trunk of the tree is located outside of phase 1. But because we are changing the impact to the CRZ for those trees within the phase 1 boundary, we've included those within the request today. The orange is the existing impacts, the places where impervious structure exists. We don't know where the land was graded 80 years ago. We don't really know specifically how much of the land was dug up to put utility lines in the ground 80 years ago. All we know today to point to as the existing impacts are the current impervious, which is an inherently imperfect representation, but it's what we've got. It's the best we can do to demonstrate to you the areas where the critical root zones are impacted. Now, as you previously heard from someone with a greater level of expertise than mine, impervious surface on top of the ground doesn't necessarily impact the roots below it. If a tree grows after things are built, the roots find a way. They find a way to fill in around the subterranean improvements, the infrastructure that is, and also around the footings and the parking lots and the like. In the future, the same thing will be true here. The trees that we plan to incorporate will grow and become a harmonious part of the development in the years to come. If this all works the way we intend for it to, in the process, we will also save some of the significant specimen trees. Let's see. So I need to modify the request because I learned today, as you did, that tree number 7, correct, is a laurel oak rather than a live oak. Now, it's a significant and beautiful tree, and one of the ones we have the best chance to preserve and incorporate into the design. And so while it's being removed from our variance request because it's not a live oak, therefore it's not a specimen tree, and therefore we don't have to ask your permission to change the impact to it, it remains part of the design and will continue to be part of this community in the future. This is the chart that you already saw. Staff presented it to you with percentage impact numbers as opposed to raw numbers of the square feet. This is the raw numbers of the square feet of the CRZ that we are proposing to impact versus what is currently impacted. I guess you should disregard the row for tree number 7 there and focus on the others. As you can see, and please take into account as you look at these numbers, again, we don't know how much was dug up 80 years ago, and we've also included in our future impact numbers areas that will be nominally impacted by including additional fill on the surface. But even with those considerations in mind, you can see that the site has been meticulously, carefully, through several evolutions, designed to minimize these impacts as much as possible. Of course, it is a priority of the design to deliver as much affordable housing as we can. That's the current destiny and purpose of the site as it's existed. That's our future destiny and purpose of the site. A second priority, and an important one, a critical one, is to preserve the large and specimen trees on site as best we can. Hopefully, the numbers in front of you demonstrate to you the words that I just described. This is our best effort to show you the difference between the types of impacts. So the green, let me take a step back. Everything that's hatched in blue hatch is the new impact. The green portions of what is hatched in new hatch demonstrate to you what is just going to be nominal level fill. So an impact that we think will not have any substantial impact on the tree root systems as they exist today. This is in the package, but also here, this is giving you the assessment of the condition of the trees. The ones noted in red are the ones that we have proposed to remove rather than to save. Here's a couple images of 2 of those trees. Duke Power doesn't have to come talk to you before they make a mess of a tree. That's not the way the code works. And so, as you can see on tree number 9, it has been substantially cut back over the years to accommodate those power lines. Impressive that it is still hanging on right there on the curb and in the vicinity of those power lines. Life does indeed find a way, but that tree's in a pretty precarious spot. Tree number 13 was also identified as a tree in fair condition. These are some of the trees that we intend to retain and change the impact to their critical root zones. You've seen those different angles of those already in staff's presentation, so I won't belabor it, but just say the word if you'd like me to come back to it. And why do we talk about the condition of the trees? I guess that's worth a mention. So I described to you earlier, our philosophy here was instead of just asking you to remove everything so that we can redevelop without regard to the location of the existing trees, we did our best to save the ones that we thought made sense to save. Part of that is driven by the natural layout of the design, But part of that's also driven by how likely do we think the tree is to survive the construction process. It's a big deal. You know, we can't use the existing water and sewer lines and electric lines that are in the ground. We've got to dig some new trenches. We can't rely on the existing road system where it is and deliver anywhere close to the number of homes that we intend to deliver on an affordable basis. And therefore, we've got to cut new roads, we've got to cut new utility lines. There's going to be some impact through the construction process. What you see in front of you at the end of this request is careful consideration given to which trees do we believe can integrate within that design, and also which trees do we think can realistically survive. All right, I would like to talk about the factors necessary for you to conclude in connection with the variance. I know that you're all very familiar with these, but I also feel that it's my obligation to address them in connection with the evidence that we present. So I'm going to go through those relatively quickly. Unnecessary hardship would result from strict ordinance, from strict application of the ordinance. In this case, the city code has evolved. These specimen trees have grown all in significant fashion since the site was originally developed. Any redevelopment of this site, whether it be for our intended purpose of delivering greater affordable housing options to the city or otherwise, would require disruption of these trees. That creates a meaningful hardship on this site. The hardships are peculiar to this property. While certainly we have many live oaks in our community, thankfully so, the presence of a significant number of that specific tree species in this location is relatively unique. Not to mention that the layout of the existing structures, roads, and utilities on the site are unique and peculiar to this particular site. The fundamental hardship, the reality that redevelopment is necessary in order for the continued use of this land, certainly was not caused by the applicant. The Housing Authority wasn't involved in the original design, didn't decide what trees to plant there in the first place, and certainly has done its very best to maintain the homes in a way that they continued to be livable and viable for as long as possible. 80 to 85 years is far longer than we expect any new construction structure to last, let alone a structure that was built in the 40s. This is, looking at this in the greater sense and giving appropriate deference to the limited variance that we're requesting here, I want to give a couple words to the comp plan. The variance that we're requesting today is truly necessary to allow this redevelopment, and this redevelopment is absolutely consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. Consistent with the concepts, many concepts in the comp plan, I've flagged just 3 here, but creating a place for everyone, revitalizing and changing places, and unique places and captivating spaces within the city are but 3 of those that I would cite as examples of consistency with the overall development plan and the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. Thank you. I appreciate your patience in listening to me talk about this. I welcome eagerly the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have for us.
Any questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
Well, I believe my colleague had a few that he had raised.
My question was, the 76 proposed plantings, is that going to meet the mitigation requirement for the 6 trees that are going to be removed, or do you also looking toward monetary mitigation as well?
I know that we will plant as much as we possibly can to satisfy. I don't know whether we anticipate a combination of both. Alex or Shad, do you know? Yeah, although we would like to get there with new plantings, it sounds like we'll need to do some combination.
Combination of the 76 plus the monetary mitigation.
Yes, sir. And the mitigation requirement doesn't just run to the specimen trees.
Right.
The other trees that we remove that are protected will also have to be mitigated.
Right.
We just don't seek a variance in connection with those.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the condition of the trees?
Yep.
Yeah, that previous one. Yeah, 28 is good, yeah. Okay, so 28 and 10, so broad strokes, I appreciate all the due diligence and the thoroughness and the care that's been given with this analysis and with the presentation. 10 and 28 are in good condition, and again, they look like they are in places today and in the future, which would be similar to, so that they wouldn't be on any impervious space in the future. And I'm just wondering if there's a way in which we could preserve those two in particular, because they're in good condition today and they may have a good chance of making it.
Yes, sir. And I apologize, Mr. Thompson. You asked that question before, and I meant to answer it at the beginning.
No, that's fine.
I
There's a
didn't
lot
come
of
back to it.
questions.
So this image is an accurate depiction of where the future impervious surface will be, but it doesn't take into account what we have to do to get there. And so the reason that tree number 28, tree number 10, and I'll go ahead and talk about tree 13 as well, can't realistically be preserved is because the amount of subterranean work in the vicinity of each of those trees necessary to go from the current surface level impervious to the design surface level of impervious is so significant that we do not think that there's any reasonable hope of those trees surviving that construction process. And remember, subterranean is not just footings for the buildings. We also have to put the new pipes in the ground.
Yeah.
And the pipes generally follow the roadways. We've done what we could to minimize and meander those roadways around, let me see if I can get to, yeah, to meander those roadways around the buildings and the specimen trees that we think that we can preserve. But at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do to minimize the impact of that subterranean work that'll be necessary.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
We're nearby, should you have any during your
Thank you.
deliberations. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything additional from the city before we open the evidentiary hearing? Okay, we'll open the evidentiary hearing. Is there anyone here that has additional evidence to present that's pertinent to this case? The room's thinning out. We'll close the evidentiary hearing and go into deliberations. I mean, you know, I drove around the property as well, and I think what's being proposed is certainly a necessary thing. I always think it's a shame to lose trees. I do feel like the applicant has put forth a significant amount of effort in obtaining and preserving the trees that can be saved. And, you know, the mitigation is in place for a reason, and the 76 plantings plus the monetary mitigation will have to meet the city's requirements. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do believe the applicant has taken necessary steps to adjust, or to answer rather, a lot of the questions that we would have to find the four findings of fact. But I will add to the fact that I do believe the city's request to have any of the trees that are potentially being impacted to be bonded, as well as working with the city's arborist, would be an important factor in my decision.
I too would like to echo the fact that I'm gratified that the applicant has been trying to make an effort to figure out what will likely survive and won't survive, and is willing to put in new trees. In terms of the question of replacement, mitigation through replacement versus paying a certain amount, I might offer that there are probably various organizations out there that might be able to supply trees if necessary, if cost is a factor, that, you know, give away trees for free, frankly. Thanks.
And could you pull up the city's recommended conditions should we grant the variance? Ah, thank you.
Miracle. I also think, like everyone said, that the due diligence has been great, and the questions have been answered in a way that is sufficient, at least for me, and I find that the 4 findings of fact are satisfied.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested with the addition of the city's recommending conditions. The preservation plan be developed by the applicant's arborist to minimize impact to existing preserved trees. The plan must be approved by the city's arborist, and the trees can be bonded for 3 years.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Hovis, do you need to come and adjourn us now that I'm no longer chairman?
All right, I guess that is our last item. Is there any additional information or items from the city? Anything else? All right, all right. We're adjourned. Thank you.